I am presently in the process of making a video about a new movement on the right that can unite traditionalists, conservatives, the dissident right and so forth, and as part of that I was looking into some key voices on the right and how they stand in the way. And it hurts me to say it in some ways, but one of those honestly is Peter Hitchens. Now I know it may seem somewhat controversial me making a video about one of the stalwarts of the British right. There's no doubt that his work on the breakdown of the Soviet Union was seminal, as well as being hyper aware of the dangers of Blairism well before anyone else. Now, I don't say any of this because I hate Peter Hitchens. For a long time I viewed him as a grand old father of the British right, someone who helped me as a young man move away from the excesses of leftism and understand my own tradition. However, after watching Hitchens over the past few years, it's hard to deny that he's becoming needlessly aggressive with everybody, highly sensitive and highly argumentative. These are the traits that you'd normally identify with a blue-haired woke leftist. It seems that like an angry leftist, he wants to be quote-unquote right about everything. Rather than discovering the truth of an issue or having an open discourse and collaborating to try and find a better future, it always has to be him that's in the know and everyone else is a stupid idiot that he looks down his nose at. I started to notice this rearing its head again after he advised Carl Benjamin of the Lotus Eaters to apologise to Jess Phillips over his "I wouldn't even rape you" comments. Now, to be fair to Peter, that was quite sound advice, and to be fair to Carl, he's taken up that advice and done the right thing. Now, I know the line in the online anti-woke movement is never apologise to these people because they'll just throw it back in your face, but I actually disagree in this instance. I think Carl did go beneath the line, and secondly, it's not about winning against leftists, it's about adhering to a higher moral standard for yourself. If all we do is try to win against leftists, we'll never create a positive vision which does positive things for individual people. That depends upon a historic moral value system which we can reawaken for our personal and collective benefit. Yet despite Peter Hitchens giving good advice in one sense, as I've said in previous videos, he always comes out with some gems, he seems very touchy about some very minor criticisms Calvin Robinson made towards him on the Lotus Eaters podcast. Yet instead of Peter having an open conversation about it with a podcast that would be very open to his perspectives, he instead just seems to want to create a problem and talks about hostility being aimed at him. And this may seem like a one-off spat, but with Hitchens you see this sort of thing again and again. I've mentioned before I'm a Christian myself, so I watch lots of Christian atheist type content to see the latest debates. And one prominent fella in this debate is Alex OConnor. He's an atheist, but he tends to be quite good faith and have some honest discussions with people. But recently he had a discussion with Peter Hitchens about drugs, and Peter just completely lost it.
If you want drug decriminalisation, good luck. And enjoy the society you get as a result. But frankly, I'm sick of the subject, and I'm also sick to death of the people who promote it.
So the reason that you seem angry at me is...
I don't like you.
Okay.
That's the reason. I really don't like you.
That's fine.
I really have decided in the past hour that I really do not like you at all.
That's fine.
I had no opinions on you before. Now I actively dislike you. I seldom came across such an incompetent interviewer. You're obsessed with drugs. Rude, incompetent, and extremely dishonest. I've seldom in life had a conversation that's been more of an endurance test. Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? I am so frigging bored about arguing about drugs with morons who want to legalise them. And I think it's a very good example of my powerful self-restraint that I haven't actually sworn at you. You brought me here on false pretences. You treated me with extreme bad manners, and you've done nothing but ask me about drugs. You know almost nothing about the subject.
I don't think that's the case at all.
Nothing about the subject of drugs, and you understand less.
I thought we talk about...
I don't want to see you again. From you again.
Well, we'll see what everyone else thinks about that.
Sure.
We'll see.
I'm sure all your druggy friends will think it's great, but I don't.
After which Peter went on Twitter to rant and rave about how evil Alex was, but even as someone who's not on Alex's side, I know that he's a good faith debater. Secondly, if you don't want to talk about drugs, just politely ask to move on, and if it doesn't work out, politely just leave. It was around this time where I started to have to be honest about the behaviour of people like Peter Hitchens. If a leftist acted like this in a podcast, you can imagine the comments. This woke snowflake, they can't handle a debate, they get emotional and aggressive as soon as they're challenged a little bit. Yet even after that, I was thinking, you've got to give Peter Hitchens more of a chance. He comes out with some absolute gems, and yeah, he's always been a bit spiky and difficult, but it's worth it in the long run. However, personally for me, that patience started to run out when he, after 10 or 15 years of saying we have to destroy the Tory party, suddenly turned his back on that whole movement when it came to the election. Suddenly he started saying absurd things such as reform are right-wing nationalist radicals, which is again a classic leftist insult. And then clearly setting up straw men about why people voted for reform, like this tweet: the Nigelistas finally realised how the UK voting system actually works. No good complaining now. The winners, oddly, won't pay any attention as they like it as it is, but I did try to tell you. Again, just sneering, needless, know-it-all behaviour which completely ignores the reasons why people voted reform, and ignores as well that people don't really notice a difference between the Labour and the Tories anyway, so it doesn't bother most people. So in essence, I'm not making this video to have a go or show up someone like Peter Hitchens. In many ways it's with a tinge of sadness. It feels like a great tree has fallen. However, it seems unavoidable to me that if there is to be a movement on the right that brings positive change, it simply can't be with people who are so obstreperous and difficult to communicate with. Finally, as I've stated on this channel before, it's unwise to approach politics or life with a negative, aggressive attitude. It eventually just turns around and starts to eat you. Of course, there are times where life is hard and you have to face difficulties, but on the whole, as human beings, we need a positive vision, something we can look towards for the future and get behind. This is why I believe people like Peter Hitchens may come up with some gems, but fundamentally they're not really going to affect any meaningful change. People like him have become as big a bloc as the Tory party was itself. These are just my thoughts, however. Do let me know what you think down below, and do consider subscribing to the channel.